Welcome to TEPSA Talk, the podcast where leaders inspire, share, and grow together. TEPSA is dedicated to celebrating the incredible work happening in education. Each episode, we dive into meaningful conversations with leaders, change-makers, and innovators who are shaping the future of our schools. Whether you're looking for fresh ideas, encouragement, or a little spark to fuel your passion, TEPSA Talk is here for you. Imagine tuning in to hear how leaders are revolutionizing their schools, tackling challenges head-on, and fostering a culture of collaboration. Grab a coffee, hit play, and let's grow together. Welcome to TEPSA Talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TEPSA Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Nesloney, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. I am so excited for you to get to hear from this week's guest, who is a TEPSA favorite here at the office, and that is none other than our current National Distinguished Principal for Texas, Miss Andra Penny. Andra, thank you so much for being on here. If they don't know who you are by now, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, greetings from Cottonwood Creek Elementary School in Coppell. I am just tickled to death to be here and to take a little bit of a break from getting ready for the beginning of school, because that's what we're doing. Everybody's doing right now. As Todd said, I am, he didn't say it, but I am the principal here at Cottonwood Creek in Coppell and have been in this particular school for 30 years. So as you can see behind me, I have 30 years of treasures in this office. So I'm just tickled to death to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, for those of you who are just listening on the podcast and not catching the video, you do not understand what she says by you can see the 30 years of stuff behind me. It's amazing. Like, I'm just like, whoa, you can tell she's been where she's been for how long. So I want to dive into that first. Let's go way back, Andra. So, let's think about you. At some point, you were in your educational experience and you thought, I might want to step into a leadership role. Thinking back, what was that like for you, kind of contemplating if that was going to be the right move?
Well, I was a kindergarten teacher, so that explains a lot of things. And actually, I had started back on my master's, on my doctorate, actually. And this is the truth. Absolutely started school on the first day of school, teaching kindergarten in my own little nest. And the principal comes down and said, hey, the superintendent wants to visit with you. And I'm going, golly, I'm already in trouble. It's only the first day of school. You know, we automatically go to, oh no, what did I do? She said, no, just call him after school. So I said, okay. So I knew him. And so I called him and said, hey, listen, we're moving you. And I went, and I had been in this school probably 10 years or so. He said, we're going to move you to another school across town and you're going to be their assistant principal. And I said, wait. He said, yeah, like, this was, I think, on a Monday, because that's when school started, always started on a Monday. And it was the next Monday. And I went, oh, okay. Didn't know the principal. It was my neighborhood school, but my kids were not in school at the time. So anyway, literally, that's what happened. And so I was moved over there as an assistant principal from kindergarten. That is a big shock for people who are not kindergarten teachers. But that's how it started. And then after that, I thought, you know what? I do have some strengths in this area, and I do know I can make a difference. And, you know, anybody that knows me know that I'm super relational. It's all about the relationships. And I thought I loved my little 25 kids, because there was no, class limit or anything at that time. But I thought I can make a bigger impact with a bigger pool. So that's kind of how it got started.
I love that. And I love, if people have been to summer conference the last couple of years, they've got to hear you speak a little bit. And you're such a great connector, even in that kind of space. And so I love that you say, I really view that as one of my strengths, as somebody who can really build those relationships. Because I think even those of us who haven't seen you in action at your school, we've kind of experienced that a little bit with you. Is that something that you feel like you grew into as an administrator? Or are you like, you know what? No, you can talk to my family. You can talk to my friends when I was a kid. Like, that's just how I've always been. I'm just a people person.
Uh, B. I'm always been that way. You would ask my brother. Of course, he'd tell you I'm a bossy person, but I can own it too. I can own it. But if you ask my friends, absolutely, they're going to tell you that that's always been a strength. But I think that was from my parents. They were also that way, very relational, very taking care of other people, making sure that they were there for others, doing what they could to help, whatever that looked like. That's the way my family was. So that's the way I was through high school. And it's funny you should ask that. I guess it was about a year ago. I decided to ask my high school friends. There's probably about 13 of us or 14 of us out of a class of 69. So we weren't really big, I'm just saying. But we're on a text thread and we talk about once a week, what's going on, what's happening. And I just sent them out. I said, listen, I want you to describe me in one word from what you know and what you remember in high school. And again, we keep up and everything. So I was wondering what they would say. I really was. And I was going to use that with something that I was doing with my staff at the time. And so I waited because that's scary, but I also knew who was saying what. I know their phone numbers. So it was really affirming. Relationship came up, always there, very loyal came up several times, creative. They pretty much, I haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, I got some gray hair now, but, haven't changed a whole lot since high school, 1973 or 70, whatever, from Linden Kilder High School. But it was fun to hear my peers from that time in my life
Yeah.
say the same thing, that I would think that that was my strength, which is funny because you look at, okay, since that's a strength, do you look at other things and try to make them as strong as maybe your relationship piece is?
Right.
And if you read the research, it says no, you need to go with what your strengths are. And of course, you can't let the budget go, which I would certainly let that go if I had a chance. But, those things have to be done. But my philosophy has always been if you get that relationship piece in place with a child, with a parent, with a family, with a teacher, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Every single thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy or you don't have to work at it, but those things it takes care of themselves. It really does.
I love that. And I think that's also a testament to you being where you have been for so long. And I know some people are like, "Oh my goodness, like that same school, like that's quite an investment to be involved." Was that something that from the start you were like, "You know what? I think I really want to stay placed in a place," or were you just like, "No, it just keeps working out that way and I just love being here." Like what's that like being I can't even imagine being in the same school for that long.
Well, yeah, I opened this school, so that was, and I have pictures of a patch of dirt. So, once I was named principal of the school, I drove by every day pretty much and took a picture. So I have it from the ground up. So there was a lot of ownership in the structure of the building and
Yeah.
the building of the staff because I was given pretty much free reign. I could hire anybody I wanted. Now they did limit. You said you can't rob, every other elementary school, but there was no forced transfers. There was none of that. This was a time when we had a lot of money. I honestly had so much I didn't even know what to do with. So, being able to come up with the motto with your core group of people, come up with the school colors, come up with your mascot, all of those things were the part of opening this school. And you know what? I will say this: I've had many opportunities to do other things, many opportunities, and you know what? This is where I need to be. This is where God put me, and this is where I need to be. And have I had other opportunities to do things? On the side, I do a lot of consulting. I do speaking, which, by the way, if you want to call me, you can because I'm really reasonable. But be an adjunct at several different universities. So I've had those outlets, but my heart is here.
Yeah.
My heart is here. So I don't know if that answered your question. I tend to rabbit chase, but
No, no.
um,
I think that's such a I love the answer because sometimes you're not really sure if you're in the right place, but I know like I love what you shared of I've had other opportunities, but I know I'm where I'm meant to be right now and I'm happy in that while still getting to explore some little other things here or there. So I love that you shared that. Well, Andrew, I'd also love to know, this year you were our National Distinguished Principal of the Year for Texas. And I'd love to kind of know, like, what that experience has been like for you to have that kind of a spotlight or that kind of experience and to get to connect with the other national distinguished principals across the country?
Well, first of all, it's a huge, huge, huge honor to represent the amazing principals and assistant principals in our state. And, I am lucky. I do get to travel as president of TEPSA. I got to travel a lot and go to different states and meet different people. And I'm saying this, and I mean it sincerely. Our principal group in the state of Texas is absolutely, bar none, the best of the best.
I
You
agree.
are one, you know that, Todd.
I
We are
agree.
surrounded by the best of the best. And so, being able to represent the state of Texas, the principals here, is just such an honor to me. Of course, I haven't met any of the other National Distinguished Principals. I do that in October. And of course, the most important thing is I get a lovely gown that I have to wear and all this kind of stuff. But I'm really looking forward to that. But I know, because I've seen it firsthand, that we have a super strong, amazing Heart for Kid group of principals here in this state. So that's just the biggest honor yet.
Well, you mentioned something else too that I want to make sure people heard. Andra was also our TEPSA state president years ago. So she's been involved here with TEPSA and has been a part of the family in a lot of different roles and experiences. But to going back into what you said about that, there just being so many great people. We interviewed the National Assistant Principal of the Year for Texas here on the podcast. And that was one of the same conversations she said. And she said, you know what? That's just a reminder that there's so many great things happening in our state. And I love that you were comfortable enough in your own skin to also complete the application. Because I think that's what some of the people don't do. They think, oh, I'm not really doing as good a stuff as other people. Oh, well, I don't even, and it's like, no, all of you deserve to be celebrated, and you should be out there advertising all the things you're doing, whether you think they're normal or not. And what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we as principals struggle with those things because the last thing that most of us are, and I can say this, we're pretty humble. We really are. It's all about our teachers. It's all about our parents. It's all about our kids. And I get that. I mean, and I understand. I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the people that are surrounding me. It's kind of a booger of a application. It really is. But I had two teachers who were like at my door going, "You are going to do this. You are going to do this." And I'm going, well, blah. Well, one of them has been with me for almost 30 years in this building. The other one has been with me almost that long. And they were relentless. They said, "We're not going to leave you alone until you do this." And I said, okay. So I did. And, one of the funny pieces of that is when they called me for the interview, because there's a process, all of you people. It is not just the application, there's other things going on. And they called me and they said, "Hey, we'd like to interview you this date, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Oh, well, that's not going to work for me." I don't know what I was thinking. I said, "That's really not going to work for me because I'm going to be at camp." And they said, "Well, no, that's the only date." And I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? So honest to goodness, I was probably the only person in the history of the National Distinguished Principal that actually had the interview in a t-shirt because I was at camp. I had I gerrymandered this little thing up in the halls of this cabin trying to get some light. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was praying for some signals. I thought this may or may not work. But, that was who I was on that day,
Yeah.
and so it obviously went well and we could laugh. And in fact, one of the people even made a comment and said, "I must tell you, you're probably the only one that's ever, interviewed in a t-shirt." And I went, "Yeah, but it's a cute one. It's a cute one." But that was it. But you know what? I've already thinking about people that I know in my circle that are national distinguished. I mean, do you think all these ideas come up from me? Heck no. I'm stealing from everybody else, just like you did, Todd,
Yep.
and
Yep.
just like I steal from you every time I go to one of your workshops. That's what we do best, is that we share, we offer to help. If I get phone calls all the time, "Hey, can you tell me about those books that you use for your leadership initiative?" Okay, sure, I'll send them the list. It's stuff like that And everybody is so willing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes our organization, and they don't have to be TEPSA members. I mean, most of them
Yeah.
are, but you don't have to be. And, I kind of seek out those new principals that might need an encouraging word or something like that. And I'm going to admit, I've been doing this 30 something years. I still get nervous.
Mhm.
I still get worried. I still am thinking, am I going to forget something? What am I going to do? Am I going to leave a kid off of a list? What is the schedule going to make everybody happy? I mean, we are still in that mode of, even though I've done it and everything's going to work out fine, we still worry and get excited. And I'm one of those, on the night before school, I don't sleep. I can't sleep. And you're shaking your head because you know what I'm talking about. I'm
Yep.
afraid the alarm is going to go off. And I'm afraid that I'm going to get in traffic. So I will get here at the crack of dawn just to make sure that I'm here on the first day of school. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. We've been doing this 30 years. The school will be just fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to go, well, where's Andra? She's not here, or whatever. And they're going to go on about their business. But every year, it never fails. I don't sleep. I just am worried to death. Now, when I get home after that first day of school, I'm out. Don't call
Oh,
me. Don't
oh,
text me. Don't bother me. And that kind of goes to my other thought, I guess. I have an amazing support system outside of my job. And I would encourage everybody to get that support system. That, yes, you've got a support system in your school. I could call anybody and ask them to do anything for me, from the parents to the kids, and they would do it to the best of their ability. But you need that support system that's not in education. And, I have two grown children. Neither one of them are teachers. Thank goodness. I have a husband and I've said this many times, he thinks we're a cult because we talk in all this jargon that he doesn't get.
Yeah.
But you know what? Super supportive. Like today when I left, I told Todd right before we came on, big day at the Cottonwood Creek. We're getting a new refrigerator in the teachers' lounge. This is a big darn deal, and it is, everybody.
Yep.
I can't even tell you how old that is. That refrigerator, but it's white. That should tell you something. It's just weird looking. So anyway, I called when I left today. I said, Bill, they're supposed to deliver the new refrigerator between 7 and 7, and I'm going, please, Lord, let it be 7 in the morning. And it was. They're here now, so it worked out great. But I thought, not many. He said, okay, see you when you get here. It is all about getting that different support system and having those friends. Most of my friends are in education. They really are, but we don't talk school.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we do. We don't talk school when we're not here. And even the teachers in my building that I kind of hang out with, we're big junkers and antique people. Surprise, we don't talk about school because you've got to get that time away to just do something else, think some other way.
I love that you share. So there's two things I want to reiterate that you shared that I think were just really powerful. The first is I really appreciate that authentic sharing of that still first day jitters kind of thing. Because I used to always think, oh my gosh, I've been in this business for how long, and I'm still not sleeping well the night before. I'm still making sure, and then sleep really good the night of. You're right, after that first day is done. But I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think that it really resonates with me, just hearing somebody with as much experience as you. And that shows that you're still meant to be in the game. You're still meant to be doing what you're doing, I think. But then I also love that you shared there too about finding your people. And it's okay if some of your people are in the same field as you are. But when you leave that building, you are a person. You're not just an educator. And so I think really embracing that side of who you are and knowing that it is okay to not talk about school when you leave or on the weekends, or even if you're hanging out with other fellow educators, because that's what fuels us to keep us going and coming back and growing our whole self. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Andra. So as we kind of close this conversation out, one of the last things I always love is, I feel like sometimes when we have a short amount of time with somebody, we really hope that there's one thing that they can hear us say in case we didn't say it yet, or we just wanted to reiterate it again or whatever. So for those who might be listening or watching today, if you just want to make sure that they hear one thing from you, what's your one thing for them?
Wow. Actually, I thought this podcast was an hour and a half, so I had many things planned. No, I'm good. Oh, wow. That's hard. And you know what? I'm going to share something that I shared at summer conference. So those of you that weren't there when they announced the National Distinguished Principal, I had a 3-minute speech, and I made it in my 3 minutes. I really did. But one thing I talked about was looking for those moments in your building that bring you joy. And it's not joy that you've created, it's something that you're seeing about the building. And I talked about Vicks Vapor Rub and how my mom, and there's a long story, but I'm going to take about 2 seconds because you're right over here by my computer. Da-da! Already got my Vicks Vapor Rub out because it is a reminder for me to look for those moments in the building every single day that make me smile, that bring me joy. It's not about a poster. It's not about a great teaching. It could be a great teaching lesson, but it could be something so tiny as that first grader who tells the worst joke that you've heard in a whole week, and you're just going to laugh and go about it and go, thank you for letting him feel comfortable to come and tell his principal the worst joke ever, and he's just laugh, and they do. They just belly laugh. But I think it would be to always look for those Vicks Vapor Rub moments that are just going to make you feel warm and fuzzy, just like the Vicks Vapor Rub did when your mama rubbed it in your chest. And look for those because sometimes we get so busy and we're so in the weeds that we don't see those little things that bring us so much joy. And, the big things, of course, do. But there's those little things that are big things to the little kids. And I think you have to think about that. It's little things to us, but to the other people, it's a big deal. And so I think it's just looking for those moments every single day, even on your worst days. Actually, that's when you really need it. And I think there's always that misconception that people like me who've been doing this for a long time don't have bad days. Well, guess what? Oh, yeah. And some days I go home and I swear to you, I walk in the house, put on my pajamas at 4:30, get on the couch, and I just sit there. And I go, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. I mean, we all have those days, and experience, age has absolutely nothing to do with it. And so I want people to know that. And I also want anyone that is listening to know that you are not alone. There are so many people at TEPSA. You pick up the phone. I even pick up the phone and go, hey, anybody got any ideas on this? Pick up the phone. They will connect you with somebody. It could be me. I mean, you're welcome to come to this school anytime, not until after school starts. But other than that, go out and visit other schools. That is the best professional learning that you will ever get. As you just call up a friend. I've already had one one principal that heard my speech at TEPSA called and said, hey, can I come over to your school? I said, you sure can after school starts, not now. But of course, and you know what? They're going to see the warts, the cockroaches that are everywhere. Sorry, but they're coming in because it's cold. I mean, warm and cold in here, but they're going to see it all. But that's what school is about, is sharing our lives and what we do and helping anyone else. So, Todd, I've been at every one of your sessions. I followed you when you were way back in Navasota. I mean, we go way back.
Yes.
But I think that that's what it's all about. You find those people who are kind of like kindred spirits in a way, and you just worship their feet and go, all right, what are you doing that you're doing? And then you use it, steal the ideas, use the ideas. And that's what's going to help you, but never be afraid to reach out to a fellow principal or someone at TEPSA that's been in your shoes, been there. Todd's been there, that will help you out. So that was a lot of answers. Sorry about that.
No, that was, and I love that you end with that, because we aren't meant to do this job alone. And sometimes when we get in these leadership type positions, we feel like we've got to carry that weight. But I think you've just made such a good reminder to lean on others, even if you've never met them before and never been to their school. Ask them, because we can learn something from every single school we visit.
Absolutely.
Well, Andra, thank you so much for being here today. We are big fans of you here at TEPSA, and I love the work you're doing, and I could listen to you all day long. But I'm so thankful for you giving us time, and thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of the TEPSA Talk Podcast. Remember, you can check out all the past episodes wherever you get your podcast, or even on YouTube. We hope to see you again next week with another all-new guest.